Hello and welcome. In this episode, Andrea shares her winding path from the best engineering school in Bucharest to leading massive agile transformational projects as an agile coach for a big tech company out of Bucharest and Düsseldorf's offices, all the way to becoming a MarTech product manager for a fast-growing startup already established in London, Berlin, and Barcelona. Enjoy. Hello, Andrea. Thanks so much for joining my podcast. How is it going?
Hey, Stefan, my pleasure. I'm happy to be here. It's going well. It's going well. It's interesting times. Looking forward to spring.
All right. Because in Germany, it's not that pleasant, right? During winter.
No, it's not. It's dark, but not very dark.
All right. So you know the format. I think it's gonna be great to start off this episode by just giving the listeners a short summary of your bio, and afterwards I'm gonna jump in with questions, starting with your studies, and then checking each experience up to this point. So basically, just give a summary and where are you right now, in terms of job, industry, location, whatever you want to share. All right.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Okay.
So I can go. Hi, I'm Andreea Gheorghiu. I'm 28. I studied electronics in Bucharest at Politehnica. And now I am a product manager in Berlin. But I started as a developer, then became an Agile Coach, did some time as a Scrum Master, then came back to Agile Coaching, and then product management, and then Agile Coaching, and now I'm product manager again.
All right. And just to like a disclaimer, where are you based right now?
I'm in Berlin. I'm working with Heycar.
Okay, you mentioned already, but I just want to emphasize, I mean, you are in Berlin, which is a sweet spot for startups and tech.
It really is. There's a lot of startups on the market and bigger companies as well. Meta is coming to Europe, so there's going to be even bigger stuff as well. So let's see how it will evolve.
All right. So cool stuff. Lots to unpack here, Andrea. Let's start all the way back with your studies. So you studied. I know what you studied. We were colleagues in Bucharest. Please tell me, let the listeners know, why did you study engineering, and what did you do? I mean, if you had, what was your thought process in terms of internships, NGOs, or any experience that might help you to get a job along the way? I mean, after your studies, after you finished with school.
Thanks, Stefan. That's a good question. I think, like most people, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I just based it off my strengths, and I knew that I was good in maths, I was good in physics, I liked doing it. And I also wanted to have some sort of money to have some sort of a career. Right? It's important.
Fair enough. Yeah.
At a certain point, I wanted to be an actress, but that was not the way to go for me. So I wanted to go study something where I could make something. I think that was also important to me, to create something instead of just processing or things like that, to help bring something new into the world.
Right.
Yeah, and Politehnica seemed like an awesome challenge. I didn't really want to get stuck behind a desk coding, so I went to electronics. I thought that it would be a lot more practical. I was young and naive. Yeah, so that's how I went to electronics. It was challenging, and I thought it would be more practical than just coding. But afterwards, I figured that it's a good place to start. There's a lot of coding jobs out there, so that's how I got there.
Right. I think you have to mention even the fact that you studied in English, it's a good selling point. I mean, I'm sure it helped you out. Uh, maybe the recruiters, I mean, along the way, maybe the recruiters are not particularly asking for this type of like detail. Okay, did you study in English or did you study in any foreign language? But I think itself, it's a nice uh, point that
Advantage.
you can mention right here. I mean, you studied in English, which maybe it had an impact on where you are based right now. I mean, in Berlin, where maybe I'm sure you speak in English and everyone, your colleagues, you communicate in English.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we started speaking in English and working and studying in English, and then we never stopped, right? I honestly, I went for English because I think the theory is already in English and we're just translating it to Romanian. And I thought, why would I go for a translated version when we can do the source one and get the initial data? And then of course, afterwards, after university, you're very unlikely to be working just in Romanian, um, because most companies are international. So you need this advantage. Now, yeah, there's other languages that you could know, but I think English is the business language. So you need to be able to do it like that.
Right. So you do what it takes. I mean, if this can be an advantage for you, I mean, you have to take it, even if it's studying in English, if it's an internship, if it's in an NGO, you just jump on it and see how it goes. All right. So I've liked the idea. You knew your strengths, so this is why you studied engineering. I like this idea. So basically, uh, what would you recommend for high school student right now in terms of choosing what he or she should be studying during university? What should be the approach? Because yeah, maybe be careful of what's happening along the way. I mean, be careful of what's happening on the job market. You want to be well paid. You want to maybe travel the world because, for example, if you work in tech, if you work in finance or this type of jobs, it's the likelihood, the chances of you moving abroad is bigger than studying I don't know, law or something like that. So do you have any at least 3 ideas to share with someone who want to choose what to study for university? And I mean in general, master's, university, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think so. When I went to university, I didn't have the advantage of being able to pick a university abroad. We didn't have that type of funds, and I think a lot of people don't. Um, but you can take these small opportunities that come your way, like the option to do the classes in English, and bank on them later on. I think it's important to understand the general direction of the market. So back in 2012, when we started university, we already knew that tech was cool, but it wasn't as cool as it is now. Let's say, right? I mean, it's also what you see around you. Like my parents are road engineers, and that was also something that I was considering for myself. But then they told me, Andrea, it's not the best type of job. You don't really want to do this. There's better things out there. So I think it's important to, when deciding this, to look at the people around you and see where they are successful. And even further than that, right? Looking online, looking at other, not just celebrities on TV, but talking with people who might know some other people who are successful at this. Um, Me growing up, I didn't know any programmers. My parents didn't know any programmers. We just knew that this might be something good. So yeah, and I think a very important thing I would recommend would be to stick with math in high school.
Right.
Even if it's not necessarily what you'll do, because you never know, right? It helps you have this logical approach to how you work and how you do what you do that will help you along the way a lot more. So yeah.
I love this idea because even in France, I mean, normally when students, they don't know what to do in life, they don't know what type of career they should choose and or whatever university they want, they stick with mathematics or engineering school just because this will open up later on whenever they will decide what to do, be it finance, be it tech, be it any type of job. Mathematics in general open up the most of opportunities out there. So this is what they do in France. I mean, and it's a practice well known. So if you don't know what to do, just stick with mathematics. If you're not attracted by mathematics, at least try to choose something which relates to, I mean, some engineering school that it's not that I don't know, a softer subject. But this is what I do here in France. So I think it's a good
That's
idea.
really cool. That's really cool.
All right, Andrea. So
yeah, it's basically stick to the door that leads to most opportunities, right?
Exactly. I mean, this is mature. I mean, I don't know how many of us when we were students or in high school, because maybe it was chance. Yeah, by chance we were somehow attracted by mathematics, physics, and we chose engineering school, and then we went to tech. And I don't know if this was, I don't know the proportion of chance and inspiration that happened, at least from my point of view, in my case. But maybe I mean, this, I think it leads me to a subject that I want to touch with you. So you said look up and be careful of what people are doing around yourself in terms of career, not only on TV and so on. And this maybe leads to the networking and mentors subject, which I discuss normally with everyone on my podcast. So be it in high school, university, or early in your professional experience, look up for people who might do better than you, who might have like higher positions in a company, maybe in a university, for example. They are more older than you. So if you're starting off your university, look for people who are in the like terminal years and ask them what's out there from their point of view. So we will discuss about mentors and networking as well. So I propose to move on and let's see what happened once you finished your engineering school. So it was metro systems, right? This was why metro systems, and how did you start off? I mean, so you finished engineering school and you were like a developer, right, at the beginning? You know.
Yeah, actually, so I started working with metro systems. That's how it was called back then. Now it's called Metro Digital, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
While I was studying, between the third and the fourth year, you have to do an internship.
Right.
And I kept thinking there's thousands of us everywhere that are going to be searching for an internship this summer, and I will end up not having a job. that was my train of thought. So Diana Miko, you had her on your podcast as well. We were in university together. She found this job advertisement for Metro System. They were looking for interns for a bunch of stuff. I think they still do. And we applied in December. So in December, in the third year, so like half a year before we were supposed to do our internships, I was so stressed about it. I was like, I'm going to start before to figure out, I'm going to go through 50 of these interviews until I find an internship. And yeah, it was the first place I applied to, and I got the job as an intern there. And yeah, we were working with application operation, which is kind of like a Devops team, but we were doing development for them.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up there, and I stuck with them for 5 years. It was really cool. It was a really nice journey. And at the same time, they were doing an agile transformation. This was back in 2015? Yeah, 2015. And they're like, you're an intern. We're going through this agile transformation. You're developing for this team. why don't you also be their Kanban master, like a Scrum Master? And I was like, you just hire me. I have no idea about anything. Sure, I'll do it. Like, what did I know? I have more to say about it, but if you have questions, like,
yeah,
I
I
can
have.
continue
I
like
mean,
that.
I have just two questions on that. To come back, for example, okay, so you started looking for internships early. So you were supposed to have an internship in between your like third year and final year in engineering school. But you were like off cycle, let's call it like that, which was more earlier than what the majority of students were doing. And I think this says a lot. I mean, maturity, and I mean, maybe it was like just FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah, it was panic.
No, but I think at the end of the day, it was mature um, because you were ahead of your peers. I mean, you took advantage. This is one thing. And would you recommend to students to just be proactive and look for these type of opportunities early? I mean, because I think even now with so many, because it's a huge demand in tech, especially companies are looking for so many people, internships and so on. Would you recommend to start earlier, even if, I mean, the school, for example, in our case, the school was saying, okay, look for an internship in between, I mean, in the summer, in between the third year and the final year, right? So that was the timeline. But would you recommend to just start off and look for an internship even as soon as you start? I mean, in December, as in your case, would you recommend to start this thing early on, not to wait until the summer of when it's supposed to happen?
I think it's a good question. I think I was not knowledgeable. I think I was just panicked when I did it like I did. You don't know, right? I ended up at Metro Systems and I had this journey in my life. It's a pivotal point in my life. Had I waited it out, maybe I would have gone to Intel or whatnot and actually did electronics.
Right.
I think if you really have a clear view about what you want to do at that point in your life, I think you should be a bit more aware of what the different jobs are on the market and what different internship opportunities you have and how cool is it in there as well. Because I had no clue. I just knew that there were some internships and that the slots were given away fast. Because like there's really good people out there, just like that were better than me at what we were studying. So I think it's a balance between figuring out how good you are, where to go, and opportunities. I had Diana telling me about this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ever found it, or maybe I would have, but too late. The people around you, the network you have, and the places that you look and you spend your time and really influence your decisions and basically your view of the world, right? The opportunities that you see or you don't see. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Am I rambling?
totally. I mean, because at the end of the day, for example, even if it's on LinkedIn, even if it's on real life, like you had Diana, for example, you cannot see an opportunity. For example, if a tech company is having like an open position in, I don't know, Berlin, Bucharest, London. If you are not connected with someone working at that company and they are sharing the job on LinkedIn, or you cannot see it. I mean, you will not be aware that they're gonna hire someone. So it's crucial. I mean, it's very important to surround yourself with people who normally they want to elevate us. They want to push us doing good things, as was the case with Diana. So okay. And I think you've also touched on a good point. We don't really know what's out there. I mean, especially when you're a student, and I guess it's a vicious cycle. I mean, how can you know what's happening out there if you're not jumping on each opportunity you have? just to see at least, because it's important to try as many things as you can. And of course, this is me speaking. From my experience, it's important to try as many things as you can early on, just to at least see what you don't want to do. Because it's very rare to have to stick with a job or an internship and really like it from like to go with your first choice and really enjoy it. At least, as it happens normally, you have one opportunity, you're gonna see what's happening right out there. Maybe you don't like it, you move on and search for another. You adapt like an AI algorithm. what at least what you don't like, and you move on and you cross-check other things. And this is one way. It's not we don't have like the right answer. I think in here it boils down to each person, I think.
Yeah, I think if you don't know which way to go, which is completely the case where you're in university. Okay, maybe there's the few of us that are not us, a few of them that are touched and they know in which direction they know their path in life. But if you don't, I think it's just important to just start, start and then adapt, like exactly like you said. I've also gone through like 3, 4, 5 jobs already, and I've been working for just 7 years. There's people out there like my brother that did 20 and they still haven't figured it out. So, yeah.
Cool. Speaking of, I think so you've mentioned you started off as a DevOps team, and then you moved to Kanban, being a Kanban master, and itself it shows like curiosity, and we can talk on that because you were working within like Metro Digital, right? And this opportunity came out like being a Kanban master, and you took it. How? Why did you took it? You had any? It was just pure intuition, or or somehow you figure out? Because I always knew you are like an outgoing person, easy to talk with, and you are good in this. How should we call them? Like social skills, right? And maybe you knew. You knew this is a strength for you, and you said, okay, I'm gonna move a bit away from the technical side and I'm gonna move to the agile stuff because I'm good at communicating to people and sharing ideas and organizing teams. Or maybe I'm just laying out things.
You're giving me more credit than I deserve.
It was just again,
at the
FOMO.
beginning I had no idea. No, at the beginning I literally had no idea. I was like, okay, I just came here to do my job, to do my internship. If this is what you're telling me to do, I'll do it. Afterwards, I did make a conscious decision to switch from development and then a little bit of Kanban coaching to full-time Agile coaching. So I can tell you the story of that.
Please do. I'm interested within this period from at Metro Digital, Andrea. Just I've checked, and I'm not sure. Did you spend your time just in Bucharest, or you were in Germany as well? I'm curious.
So, in my 5 years with Metro Systems at that time, they weren't the digital that they are now. When I left, I spent. So I worked the first time part-time, right. Then I moved the second year full-time, and then in the third year I started going to Düsseldorf and Germany, right, where the headquarters is, and I started traveling between the two.
Right.
I anyhow planned after my university, after I finished the bachelor's, to go study my master's somewhere else. But by the time I finished university, I already knew I didn't want to do that, but I still wanted to get out of the country in a way or another.
Right.
So this really, it was a really nice, alignment of the stars, let's call it.
Right. So I
saw the opportunity and jumped.
Right. Again, I think so. The idea of moving abroad just came on the radar, right? So it's right. You are in Bucharest, working in tech, having a nice job. And I think you were right onto the money with this. Like back in the day, so it was 5 years ago, right? And you were like an agile coach. How was it like? Because you were very young, I assume. Being an agile coach in a nice company in Bucharest. how is it like to actually be the coach? And I'm curious. I mean, because you must be seeing the impact of Agile within the organizations. I'm sure.
Yeah. So I had a wrong impression when I started working. I had the impression from, years of the experiences of my parents and the older people around me. I had the wrong impression that you go to work and you work in this like factory-like setting, even though you're working on computers and you're like angry and sad and you do your work. And at the end of the day, when it's 5, 6 p.m., you get out of work and then you start living your life, which was a very gloom perspective on life, but that's how it was. I hope people don't have it like that anymore, but that's how I viewed things. And when I was introduced to Agile through Kanban, I realized that, hey, people can be happy at work and they can have fun and they can experience this like cool stuff like community and all of that and produce more value for the clients, for the users. What is this? What is this magic? This is kind of like the feeling and revelation I had when I figured out what's up with this. And that's why I decided to go full time into Agile. I was like, everybody should know about this. Why isn't everybody doing this? Yeah, so I can tell you how it was to be an Agile coach for 800 people. So basically doing an Agile transformation for around 800 people at 22, when everybody there worked for like more than my own life. That was.
But maybe that's sorry to jump in, Andrea. Maybe that's the setting point, right? I mean, because you were young, you had this fresh perspective about things, and let's right. So yeah, let's tell me a little bit about that. How was it like to lead, to be in charge with this agile transformation? And maybe before starting off with that, maybe we can just give our listeners a short introduction or a short summary of what Agile means. Why, or at least how shall we formulate this? Why is it benefit, for example?
I think I get what you mean. Yeah. So Agile is a way of working. It's a set of principles of how we work and collaborate together in tech, and it has spread to more than tech. It's used in marketing, it's used in government. There's even parts of our governments that use techniques from the UK government for quite some time. It's a way of working and collaborating in order to reach results. And in general, it revolves around individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So there's a couple overall principles that describe the way of thinking. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation.
Right.
Yeah, it's a set of principles to help guide how we do the work, so that instead of it being a very process-driven technical thing, we as people recognize that we are people and we have our own needs and collaborate to reach a defined end. It's very abstract, right? It is, right? It's like we're doing coaching, but it has a lot of different techniques and a lot of different frameworks of how you can put it in practice.
Yeah, you're right. I think we cannot really put a finger on it. I mean, we talk about Agile, but it's difficult to measure how much Agile we are. Even it happens for me, for example, if I'm gonna write down requirements or specifications for the developers or for other people, I'm still gonna use like 3 different tools. I'm still gonna have my spreadsheet. I'm still gonna have, because maybe I'm old school, and in Agile,
but you gotta let the tools work for you instead of you working for the tools. It's like, yeah.
That's the insight. That's the feedback I got from a colleague from UK. Because we have one tool, we pay lots of money for this tool. Why should we still use like spreadsheets and everything. But I mean, I think it also boils down to the industry. For example, if it's gonna be finance, I'm sure. I mean, it's working with spreadsheets. It's easier to write down like calculations and stuff. For me, at least. um,
I mean, Excel will never die.
uh, right,
It's the
but
one tool to rule them all.
all right. So going back. So right. I mean, it's a way of delivering projects, a way of working with your peers, with clients, and so on. Let's go back and please let us know, how was it like to be like 22 years old and being in the heart of this agile change? uh,
Yeah, it was. Oh,
Sorry,
please.
go ahead. I'm gonna start with my questions now because I have like plenty of questions, but I'm gonna take notes and then come back.
Cool. It was interesting. We had a group of agile coaches, and I think that helped a lot. And there was this whole management felt a pressure to change things. There was a need to turn things around, and agile. I mean, before agile, right? There were other revelations in IT, right? I like ETL and so on and so forth. Waterfall itself was at a certain point a revelation. I think people were a bit tired of change, and they're like, okay, another fad. But management really believed in it. So we had support. We had access to external coaches. Like I got to work with Arie van Bennekom, one of the signers of the Agile Manifesto, right? One of the very few people. Yeah, they coached us and to become coaches. It was really cool. And we were taking parts of the company and working with the people, restructuring the teams, and then helping them set up this new way of working. And I remember having these discussions about we can deliver code every couple of seconds, you know? And they were like, it took them, of course, more. It was a long time ago, and it was like older systems. And yeah, it took them, let's say, a week, where they were delivering every couple of months or something. There was like this change from a couple of months to a couple of seconds or minutes between integrating code into production. They're like, no, you don't know anything. We could never do this. You dreamer. And yeah, I guess in 2022 we do deliver quite fast. We don't wait a couple of months anymore. But it was also very fun. It was challenging but fun.
I'm sure. I meant to ask, how did you? I had, for example, George or Angelina in my previous episodes on the pod, and we were discussing about. So they are both consultants, and they were discussing about they are supposed to change things within clients' organization, and we were discussing about dealing with clients like friction when it comes to adapting to change. In your case, what's your piece of advice when it comes to making a client to understand your point of view? And because at the end of the day, agile is better. So what's your piece of advice to someone who is trying to push an idea or a process or a tool that at the end of the day it's going to make his or her life easier? What are the steps you're going to use in order to make the client understand and use a particular methodology, or be it agile, being a tool, be it a process or whatever?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a really good point that all of us as coaches, as change agents face. I think there's to simplify it, right? I think there's two important things. One, understanding the need for change.
Right.
So everybody needs to have a purpose that they're trying to reach. So people cannot be comfortable in that position that they're in. Mm-hmm. They need to understand that where they are right now, it's not working.
Right.
So let's say, I don't know, the company is collapsing. We're not making enough money to have profit or whatever. And two, you need to set a working collaboration where you are open to experimentation. It's not about we come in and we define everything that you are, how you're going to work from now on. We are providing tools for you to solve your problems. Let's try this tool, see how it works out, and then adapt after that. It's not about making a plan right now for everything for the next 2 years. It's about making the next change, continuous improvement, opening up to ideas and trying them out. As the Japanese would call it, Kaizen, continuous improvement.
Right. Okay, let's leave it to that. Do you want to mention anything else in while at Metro Systems, Andrea? Otherwise, we can move on to the next question, which is why leaving such, I mean, because at the end of the day you had like a cool job, looking from outside at least, like being an agile coach. We can even I'm all over the place with my questions, but before moving on, what do you think are the at least top 3 skills that an employer is looking when hiring an agile coach or an agile master? Because maybe students they're gonna finish school, engineering, economics, whatever, and they want to become an agile coach. Do you think it's possible for a student to straight out of university become an agile coach, or do you recommend to have like the foundation in terms of coding, DevOps, technical stuff, and then moving on to agile?
The world, the agile coach world is split in this direction. I myself would recommend having a different job before switching to agile coaching.
Right.
So I had the experience of being a programmer and like developing the app that I developed for like real clients and adjusting it. And it was a process, you know, so I learned from that. Then I became an agile coach and I was teaching other Scrum Masters how to Scrum Masters when I never worked with Scrum, and I was like, this is not working. I cannot do this. So then I full on stepped down and I did Scrum Mastering for a year before, like full on Scrum Mastering before very coming back to Agile Coach.
Sorry to interrupt. Very mature. I think. I mean, you did this assessment. You took a step back, and I think it's very mature.
Thanks. It was also I had the privilege to, my manager when I started working for Metro Systems was also my mentor. And I think because we talked about mentorship and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't think I would have gone anywhere if it wasn't for him. To have a voice of reason in a way or another that always had my back. And I know that not everybody is this fortunate. But yeah, a mentor to help guide you in this and tell you like it's okay to step down. This is, or like change course. It makes sense.
Right. I like this, having a mentor. In your case, do you think is any particular things you have to do to find a mentor, be it in your organization, be it in a university, being in your life in general? Do you think it's there are particular things you have to do just to reach out or find out these mentors, or how did you, in your case, how did you find your mentor?
The whole topic of mentor-mentee network, I think it's people are trying to simplify it sometimes. And like you're reaching out to people and then they mentor you. I don't think it's that easy. I don't think it's that easy to find somebody who would actually mentor you, or somebody who you can actually provide benefit to, because as a mentor, you also need to benefit from your mentee. I can only tell you how it worked for me. I think I was an overachiever. Right. I liked work a lot more than I thought I would, and I really put a lot in it. And I think people some people took notice that I could do more under the right guidance.
Right.
And I think not everybody is lucky enough to have somebody like that around them. And I think your manager is the person who is the best to do that, because if you perform, they are good, if and so on and so forth, you know. It's a tricky question that I don't really have an answer to.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's enough. It's enough for me. I mean, hard work and dedication. You said it yourself.
Yeah, but you don't always find that. That's not like a silver bullet, right? You can do all of that and still be overlooked.
Right, which is, we don't have the answers, at least. Again, I keep mentioning on my podcast, and I think I have already like 5 episodes I've been mentioning this stranger. I mean, I've been listening to another podcast, and a guy was talking about networking and why, at the end of the day, why a person should do networking, and to what it boils down. And this guy was saying, strangers have the things you want in life. So if you are looking, for example, for the next phase in your career, be it a job, be it a new job, a new position within your organization, be it a new job within a new organization, just reach out to these strangers. Of course, you have to do your due diligence, do your research, find somehow. I mean, don't just bluntly, or maybe who knows, maybe it can be like still a good thing to just bluntly go to a person and ask them, hey, I like what you do, just help me out, this is what I'm trying to do. Or maybe I was just thinking recently, sometimes I think you have to own your trade. For example, in your case, if right now, if you are a software engineer and you've came to the realization that you want to be an agile coach, okay, so own your trade. I'm an engineer. This is my background. I'm good in tech, but now from now onwards, I want to move into like being an agile coach. So what can I take from my experience being a software engineer? Because you take the technical point of view, which helps a lot to the agile coach side of things. And I mean, just wrap up the story, and at the end of the day, if you own your trade and you do a little assessment, you are good to go, and you will find a way. This is where you stand. This is where I want to go from point A to point B. And if this is structured enough just to present to a stranger this story, I think you are good to go. You are good to go to, and you can do it online, LinkedIn or meetups, whatever, or you can just reach out to people like within your organization, within your city, country, whatever. But I think it boils down to owning your owning your trade, knowing your story, and yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you describe me as a social being, and I really am, but I sometimes don't really like for myself, I don't really know if I would reach out to like somebody from, let's say, I don't know, a company that I look up to. Like I wouldn't really necessarily reach out to them, because I was like, well, what do I ask? What do I like do? So you can also like observe, and then, you know, just do it. Just freaking apply to that job. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, and then you're like exactly where you started. Is that really a bad thing? Just do it, you know, just reach out and like find that junior position and try out that new crazy country that you just heard on TV. It's like, we're like, you know, on your network. Just do it, and you'll find your way, right? If it's not the right thing, you'll move somewhere else.
Right. Take the risk.
Jump.
All right, Andrea. So speaking of new country, let us know, how did you end up in Germany, and why did you make the change?
Yeah. So I was agile coaching, and I feel like I didn't have a real base for what we were doing. I couldn't give enough real life examples to people about why we were doing the stuff we were doing. I knew just the theory, and it frustrated me. I also wanted to see how it is in practice. So I had the opportunity to start working also in Düsseldorf, in Germany. So for 3 years,
Cool.
I was moving between Düsseldorf and Bucharest. basically living in these two countries. And it was amazing. Honestly, I loved it a lot. It started, I started understanding how work culture is different in other places than in Romania.
Right.
I also got to travel to other countries that Metro Systems was working with to do trainings with them as well. So to travel through Europe, and it was a really nice period. In my 5 years with Metro, I learned a lot, like a lot. I started as an intern, developing. I did some support at a certain point. I did agile coaching. I got to work with amazing mentors and external people, and I was learning so much. I felt like a sponge. But at a certain point, where it was like 5 years, I I that abrupt learning curve started to flatten out a bit.
Mm.
And of course, I didn't know everything, but I couldn't find any more big troves of information to learn at that rhythm that I was used to.
Right.
So that's when I was like, there's more out there, right? So that's when I moved to Berlin.
Right. So we can link that to, I mean, you've been already based in Düsseldorf, so you've like Germany. And tell us a little bit more about, so you are a product, you've been starting off as a product manager, right? And in this company in Germany, in Berlin. Is it, tell us a little bit about the company, and what did you do when you started off?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't quite get it.
I'm all over the place. It's a broad general question, I think. What's the organization like in Germany? So you starting working for this new company, and tell us a little bit about that, about the company itself, and then about your role with them.
Mm-hmm. So it's called Heycar, the company. It started off in Berlin 2 years before I joined. So 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 5. Yeah, and they had an exponential growth. They're a platform for selling vehicles. So it's not customer to customer, more like business to customer through the platform.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what it does. So it was a startup in Berlin, and it's just one country as opposed to Microsystems was working with 20-something countries. So I was not going to travel as much, and then the pandemic hit. So nobody was traveling. So yeah, I started off as a coach with them, working with the couple product teams that they had. And after a bit, I started doing product management for them. An opportunity like presented itself where they needed a product manager for a product for a couple of months that turned into half a year. And I had been doing product coaching as part of Agile coaching for a couple of years, but of course I had never been a product manager before doing product coaching. And you see where I'm going.
You seem like, unfazed with like the real life experience. You are always the coach before before having the skin in the game.
I don't know. It happens, I think after doing something like this, you are a better coach, right? I really think you need some of the experience of the people you're coaching to help them, to empathize with them. And at this point, I've worked as a developer with operations, so with Devops and SRE, with support as well, and with product. I think from one of these cross-functional teams, the only thing that I haven't done is design.
Right.
And I will be working closely with the designers in the team to steal some of that as well.
Right. So fair enough. I mean, I think every steps you did led to this position. I think being a product manager. How is it like to be a product manager?
It's pretty cool.
Is it true you are the CEO of the product? You are the mini CEO of the.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the answer for people with big egos, and I think product could use a few smaller egos. Um, I think building a product, the developers are doing it, right? They're putting that code together and actually creating something. And the designers and the people doing other functions around it. I think us as product managers have to um, have the fight with stakeholders, looking at the data, clarifying who that customer is and what they actually need, and present this in a way that makes sense so that the engineers trust you to actually build this and then see that their work is rewarded by the client and so on.
Right.
I think it's a service job, right? I think you're the servant to the product in a way or another. Does that make sense? As
I think
agile
it's
coaching is
it's
like you're
something
a
that
server to this process.
it's something that a product manager would say. Okay, it makes sense, Andrea. So I know out there we can say we have two types of product managers. Technical, I mean, a product manager which is more on the technical side of things, and a product manager which is more like a business operations, client facing client side. In your case, are you more like on a technical side or more on a business operational stuff? I mean, it
That's a
depends.
good question, and I'm still figuring it out. I'm working with Martech, right? Which is, it has tech in its name. So technical solutions for marketing. I think you cannot not be technical at all.
Right.
And I think you can't be just technical. I think if you're just a technical PM, you're either building a product for other developers, then your product is like there's no need for business in a way or another. But yeah, that's not shouldn't really be the case for a lot of products, right? I don't know. I prefer customer facing products.
Right. Because again, you are good with communicating with clients, with people. I think. I mean, this is what I see.
You
Andrea.
flatter me.
No, I think it's true. Andrea, so if you can just make a comparison in between working in Berlin and in Bucharest. How is it like in terms of, I don't even know how to structure my question. So I think it's going to be like a broad general question. If you've seen any differences in working in Bucharest on one side and working in Berlin on the other side, in terms of the entire ecosystem, right? So how is it like in terms of other, like the industry, the tech itself? How is it like in terms of other colleagues, like maybe students, interns, not institutions, I don't know, this whole tech scene and being part of it, how does it feel from Bucharest perspective and from Berlin perspective? Does it make sense?
First, I can try to answer and then you can guide me if you want more or less of something. So first of all, the commute is smaller, which is kind of cool.
Right.
To work. But on the other hand, Metro Systems was a big established company, right? Metro itself is what, 60 years old. So it's a different type of, and there are different industries as well. So it's I haven't had the enough experience to really make this like big generalization of the differences between the two. But there's experts everywhere. I think Romania and Bucharest has a lot of experts, and I think it would be so cool to see even more expats in Romania, because it's a really cool place to live and be. I think for me, so I was working in Bucharest and Düsseldorf. Düsseldorf is super quiet, but Bucharest is a very lively city where everything happens and so on. You have a lot of opportunities and everything. I think Berlin was the middle ground for me. It was still a German place, where you had the opportunities, let's say, of a German place, and the security, the the comfort, of not having to stress about different things like
Right.
in Romania in general.
Right.
There's a lot less prejudice.
Right.
Like I can remember I was wearing a nose ring for a period, and I just remember the stares and the discussions, and it was just like, is this really what we're supposed to be like? What it matters, I like that everybody has tattoos, that nobody gives that nobody cares. That
Um,
it's about what you're discussing, not about who you are. And it's so diverse. Berlin is super diverse. People from all over the world just figuring out together what they want to do.
right. I like that. You've mentioned this like big organization, Metro Systems, and of course, Heycar, which is like a startup.
Not
So
anymore. It's
yeah,
quite big. It's right now it's in 5 countries.
right. So it's, I mean,
They really grew.
when I'm saying startup, I mean it as in the mentality, how you guys work more than size and other like technical financial stuff. So what do you think? Of course, did you notice any differences as in the way of working, as in the mentality, working in a big company versus startup? Quote, yeah. Hey, Carl, I know it's
Growth.
already like
I
a
think
big
it's more like
company.
growth.
Yeah, exactly. So do you see any difference in between like the way of working and just way of working? You as an individual being either an agile coach or product manager in one side a big company, and on the other side like a growing company.
It's an interesting question and a good one. Thanks, Stefan. Um, I think companies that get formed right now have a different view and understanding of what matters. For example, data.
Right.
Gathering and looking at so much data versus companies that started 50 years ago that have their data
All over the
basically all
place.
over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that really changes how you look at things. It's like you get instant feedback about the stuff that you bring to clients because you have the data.
Right.
And then there's this sense of urgency of like, let's do it. Let's get to work. And of course, the bigger you are, the slower you move. But there's ways, and Agile itself tries to deal with that to keep this agility, not in a Agile way, but like the actual word that Agile took it from. This agility of being able to move and adapt quickly. Yeah, there's more expected of you, I think, in startups or like in growth phase. You have bigger expectations, bigger dreams of yourself as a company and of the people you're working with.
Yeah, maybe as you as a millennial, us as millennials, maybe it's also about the impact. The impact feels much more in a growing company than already well established like big company. What do you think, if you would have not went to this path first of a big company and then jumping into a like growing company, do you think you would have performed at least the same as you are performing right now? To put it in other words, do you think you would have learned the skills from Metro Systems, from a startup as well, when you started off your career?
I never thought about that quite in that way. So I'm gonna give an answer that might be rash. Maybe it's not really the my own truth, but how I'm seeing it right now and how I'm thinking about it, I don't think so. I think joining a big company when I didn't really know what I wanted to do gave me the opportunity to see and move around and figure out from all of those people doing awesome things around me, what is the one thing that I would like to do next. And it also offered me the resources to, bigger companies have bigger resources that they can do a lot of things with. So like this internal agile transformation, that smaller teams, companies would have just gotten an external company and then they did it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how I look at it right now. But I think if I would have gone with the startup from the beginning, I think I would have ended up making my own startup sooner rather than later.
Right.
So it's a different path in life. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just different.
Right. Okay. Cool stuff. Andrea, just one more question. Tell me what's happening. I know now with COVID, things are more online than offline. Is it something that, for example, you didn't see in Bucharest or in other place that's happening in Berlin? Maybe conferences, maybe startups, accelerators, VC, anything you can think of that it's quite particular to Berlin, and of course your London or places where indeed there is a big big startups funding with VC, like venture capital money and everything like that. And I'm curious if you've seen anything that you didn't see it yet in other places, just in these locations such as Berlin, London.
Mm-hmm. Even in Metro, I was working a little bit on the startup direction, like figuring it out. So I moved in Berlin at the beginning so in January 2020, and the quarantine started in March 2020, and it hasn't really ended. So I need to show my vaccination to go into the supermarket. It's a different world out there than it was a couple of years ago, or that it will be in a couple of years. So yeah, but before there was TechCrunch.
Oh, TechCrunch.
Which is really cool. I think right now everything is available. It's an amazing period in tech history because everything is available to everybody. So for example, there's this Silicon Valley group as VC. Let me just double check that. SVPG. No? Yes, Silicon Valley Product Group, right. Which is done by Marty Kagan. Amazing. There's this lean startup meetup that was in Silicon Valley, and now all of these things are online. So you can join them if you figure out how from Gheorghiu. Like
yeah,
it's an amazing thing, and like getting access to you can pitch stuff from all over the world to everywhere else. So you can pitch stuff to people in Japan, or like become part of these networks that are across continents. It's awesome. I can't really say if there's anything special right now in Berlin. I wish I could say. I wish I will find out soon for myself.
All right. I hope this COVID situation will be fine. Andrea, so I like the conversation. Please let me know, is it your first podcast or is it your first? I'm sure it's not your first interview about Agile, as you being an Agile coach. You've been preaching about these things already. But I do appreciate being so candid. Let me know if I've missed any questions, for example, that you might have wanted to talk about. One thing that you wanted to talk about, maybe like a failure or a lesson that you've learned along the way, maybe an advice you want to share. It's like a broad, it can be like anything.
Yeah. I think we can talk about two things if you'll let me. One, mistakes. I think it's really a frame of mind, and I think they're just, like I mentioned, like pivots in your life, and you'll end up somewhere else, but it's not necessarily going to be worse. It's just going to be different.
Right.
And in terms of changing careers, so
right.
it's we really live in a world with, like, I had no idea agile coaching was a thing when I was studying. Like, who even knows what it is, or that product management is like it is right now, or like the being a podcast host. There's these all of these cool jobs that we can invent or make or whatever. I think it's really cool to have this. I know you need to have a blanket of security so that in case you try something, you're not going to land flat on your ass. But I think it's really cool to get out there and experiment, like try something else. Because I think none of us will, in the next decade or even right now, will stop working with the job that we started with. A couple of decades ago, it was like that, right? You studied something and then you did something and you were doing that for your whole life.
Right.
I don't think it will be like that from now on. I really don't. I think we'll start off with something and then we'll have to adapt and adapt and adapt because jobs get automated or the market shifts and so on and so forth until we'll figure something out and then we'll change again.
So how should we prepare ourselves for this type of situation, changing jobs, adapting, and landing on our feet at the end of the day?
I think you can prepare yourself, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be. There's no sure chance, that you're going to land on your feet. I think
come on, for me, Andrea, it's very easy, the answer. I mean, looking back at our conversation, this is what you've been doing. You were curious and you jumped on every opportunity out there, moving from technical like DevOps team and so on to the Kanban, and then to the Agile, and then to Düsseldorf, and then to a new city, Berlin. I think this is what you've been doing. So adapting and staying curious.
Yeah. But adapt, like, how do you prepare yourself to adapt? It was hard every time I did one of these changes. It was hard, but at the end of the day, you got to say, what if I don't do it and things go bad, right? I listened to one of the podcasts. They were talking about some people who switched to Slack, some developers from the old Slack at the beginning when they made it. They were thinking like, okay, do I go with the startup where I might fail and things might be bad, or do I stay in this comfortable job? And it's like, what if I don't do it? If I don't go to Slack and it becomes successful, will I regret it more that I stayed here versus I stay in this comfortable job and Slack fails? Will I regret it more if I didn't go or if I did go? I'm sorry, I'm missing it around. I hope you get it, right?
Yeah, no,
think about it.
Absolutely.
That you're missing.
Absolutely.
What
Andrea.
can you stand losing?
And I think, I mean, we can touch this subject because we talk about, I mean, even on the podcast, we discuss about all sorts of like professionals, and we discuss about how nice and glamorous things are when either moving from one country to another, moving from one company to another. But I mean, of course, there are also bad things. I mean, not really bad things, but things that are stressing you out, for example, just in order to grow. Maybe we can touch on that. What, for example, for you, looking back, when you've changed either roles within metro systems, either changing countries, I mean, cities, Bucharest, Düsseldorf, doing this back and forth, and then eventually jumped and moved in Germany for good. How was in your
Who knows?
case?
I'm not planning to stand here forever, stay here forever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows? But how was it in your? Because I'm sure it was not easy, especially right when you did a transition. I mean, we talk about in a glamorous way. I mean, wow, it's very nice to being in Berlin and being in a cool company. But what would you share about? I mean, the bad things, like the things that were stressing you out. It can be the rent in Berlin. It can be whatever, like missing family, missing friends. We can be like more. Let's touch this
the bad
emotional.
stuff. Let's talk. I think that the one thing that's like I'm not 100% with, but I really love my life. I really do. I wouldn't change it for the world, except when I do. Is like if I compare Romania and Berlin, the salaries in Romania for tech jobs are quite above the like medium, like
Right.
the average
Right.
household salaries. So you get to live this privileged life
Right.
that in France and Berlin, it's like it's still an average salary. You're not living this privileged life that you go to the coolest clubs and can do whatever. You can still live this very comfortable life, but you don't have that privilege. I don't know. I was born white-ish. I'm used to privilege. It was a
You're
weird
right.
comment,
You're
but I
right.
hope you got it.
You're right, because I'm preaching about this with to my brother, for example, who is in Bucharest, and my sister who works in tech in Bucharest. I mean, it's a bubble. It's a privilege working in tech in Bucharest. It's it's a nice situation for you.
Mm-hmm. It
All
really
right.
is like my rent. Like I visited Romania last year for a month. I stayed in May, and like a really cool Airbnb that I got in Bucharest, for a month. The price I paid for it was still lower than my actual rent, like empty rent in Berlin. So yeah.
Yeah, but I mean the prices are picking up, I think, in terms of real estate, in terms of services. I think, I mean, it's the natural
Yeah.
way to from now onwards. But still, it's a sweet spot being in tech in Bucharest.
Yeah.
Which funny enough, they don't realize. I think people being in Bucharest right now, they don't realize the sweet spot they're in. I see it with my family, for example, with my brother and sister. I have to tell them, guys, you are in a sweet spot. Just
It really is. It really is and like it's also you've lived in that city for quite a while. You see all of the doors because you speak the language, you know the system, you understand. Like you move into a city in Romania, and you figure it out. You figure it out quite fast because it's how it works. I don't know. I don't think I've ever figured out how Düsseldorf, how Berlin work. I mean, I have my friends and I like do my things and I have my life, but I'm living in my own interest bubble as well. I never really quite got like I don't watch German TV. I don't speak German. Yeah, it's like I feel like a bit like a stateless individual. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, it happens. I mean, when you leave, because in your case you live not just in Bucharest and Berlin, you've been to Düsseldorf, and I think, yeah, it's a common thing among people living abroad, and in many places you somehow lose your touch with any. I mean, maybe it's not Berlin, maybe it's not Bucharest, maybe it's not Düsseldorf. It's somehow, as you said, stateless. Which
Sometimes it's better, sometimes
yeah.
it's worse, right? You have
Speaking of language, so yeah, it's German. I agree, it's a difficult language. Andrea, I'm curious about the German people. Are they really on point? Are they really like that punctual as they say on internet?
Yes and no. I found that the more you work with different like people, because all of these companies that I've worked with
Mm,
have been extremely international. Like you work with people from all over the world. I can't really say that any of the stereotypes are true or false. You know, like you can't really say it. Everybody is an individual, and yeah, maybe about us that we do swear a lot. But I know a lot of Romanians who don't swear a lot. You know, it's really I can't really say. I can't really be that general and say yes, Germans are punctual because I know a lot of them that are not, and for everything as well.
yeah, but
Everybody's just people, you know.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I like we've touched about this, like the things that are not that enjoyable, because at the end of the day, yeah, the fairness police wants everything to be fair, but things are not fair in life. And maybe I'm gonna maybe I'm gonna focus on that with my next guests, because at the end of the day, this is, I mean, we take our lessons from our mistakes, and I'm glad we've touched that. You see, I mean, it's very easy for me to talk with you and get out information from you. It's really, I mean, it's a genuine, maybe because we've been also colleagues and friends. So yeah. uh, so Andrea, please let me know if, I mean, I do appreciate being so candid on the podcast. Very nice, like information in terms of agile product, tech in general, also like more personal stuff.
My pleasure.
Do you think we've missed something worth mentioning?
No, I think we got a lot of stuff. And at the end of the day, right? It's a long life. At a certain point, we'll miss some stuff. They will pop up with the next with your next.
I'm sure maybe maybe I'm gonna see you on another podcast. I'm sure it's not gonna be the only podcast you'll be on. I don't know if it, for example, in Germany, in Berlin, are the podcasts like a serious thing? I mean, not serious. Are people usually listening to podcasts?
Yeah, I listen to podcasts,
yeah.
But I listen to specific ones. So, for example, I'd use them in my product research, to study the market.
Cool.
Like when I was doing, like I listened to podcasts about product. Now I listen to podcasts about marketing. I used to before. Now more about SEO. Like depending on what I'm doing at work, I need external inspiration.
Right.
So that's how I do it. But the Germans themselves, I don't know. It's in German. I don't listen to them.
Right. I wonder what's going to be like the top 10 podcasts on Spotify, on Apple in Germany. I'm curious. I can check that out. Also, I mean, before closing this, before calling the pod, do you have any book that people can read about Agile, about lean startup, about product in general?
I think I have one that connects all three of them, and it's inspired by Marty Kagan. I think you've read it by your smile.
Which one is it?
Inspired by Marty Kagan.
No, I didn't.
You should. Come on, Stefan. It's really good.
Or maybe I did. No, if I'm not remembering, I didn't. All right.
Maybe he didn't impact you as much, but it's a really good book. It tells you how to do product in an agile way, in an MVP lean startup way, but for this day and age, how to build products that customers love, and how to organize inside of the team, cross-functionality, how to work with stakeholders, how to do discovery, because this is something we're missing a lot in product. It's a really good book, and it's not that new.
All right, so inspired. Do you have another one? Give us at least 3 books.
I have to do 3 books. Then, of course, Lean Startup.
Right.
And I'm gonna go. Fearless Organization. Fearless Organization by.
Right. I don't know this one. Fearless Organization. But sounds cool.
Amy Edmondson. It's Fearless Organization, creating psychological safety in the workplace for learning, innovation, and growth.
Right. Right. Mm.
Yeah. It's about how you would communicate with each other so that we let ourselves run free, to come up with the best ideas, to feel the safest and be able to be ourselves.
Cool.
It's really cool.
Cool.
And you might have heard about psychological safety in general.
Right. So books, podcasts, nice. Pretty nice. So, I mean, yeah, staying up to date, getting inspired, and
newsletters. So many
newsletters. Yeah. Maybe I should do a newsletter for my podcast.
You totally should. Yeah, exactly. You can just like do like a preview of the interview, and then like link it to the actual interview. That'd be a really cool
maybe
thing.
You can help me out with it.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, Andrea. So let's leave it to that. It was nice. It was nice catching up with you. Keep
You as well.
keep pushing at it with this agile product and changing minds and inspire people within organizations and life in general around you.
Thank you. I'll do the best I can. Somebody
um,
get to inspire me as well. So I'll check out your podcast for that.
keep finding your mentors, right? And keep networking.